And the dumbest bill in America is the $3 trillion Pelosi payoff, known as the Heroes Act. What a great name. You know, so virtuous, the Heroes Act, that's what she's calling it. But it's really a $3 trillion payoff to all of her Democrat friends and her contributors and the Democrat Party and folks who are here illegally and anybody else who apparently wants money for staying home. And I'm not saying those folks who, don't necessarily want to stay home to be safe. I'm talking about the Democrat operatives who just want to pay off people to do nothing and then garner their vote, right? So that's the dumbest bill in America. What a surprise. And by the way, you know what else this bill does? The Heroes Act? It's a federal bill to eliminate state voter ID. It eliminates statewide voter ID. Why? What does that have to do with solving the economic crisis that we're in? Nothing. What does that have to do with solving the healthcare crisis that we're in? Nothing, but it's still in the bill nonetheless. Go ahead, Warren, take a shot at this.
When the coup attempt doesn't work, we'll come up with something else.
The new coup.
The only problem Nancy has is she doesn't run the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, it's going to be a real problem.
She would like to, but I don't think Mitch McConnell for anything is going to even seriously consider this bill. Number one, the governor's asked for $500 billion. So that's $2.5 trillion in excess over what they asked for. I can't fathom where all that money is going to go. Number two,
where it's going to come from.
We're already trillions of dollars into a recovery.
Yes.
We've already devalued the credit of the United States dramatically. So to go back into that well one more time, I mean, we're now at the level where we're hurting our great-great-great-grandchildren.
Yes, we are.
I mean, we're setting ourselves up for 70, 75 years of recovery to get over this massive amount of spending we've already committed. And this is just wrong on so many levels. And it's the Democrat game. Pay people off before the election. They vote for you.
They vote for you. And here's what's interesting. You said devalued currency, which is basically, right on the money. Excuse the pun. But devalue also means inflation. Right? So what we're going to set off is one of the most massive eras in inflation in American history, where your dollar or all of your savings and investment are going to be halved, if you're lucky, cut in half. So hopefully, if you own something that's real, like real property or something that actually generates income, you can ride that inflationary wave. But if you're a saver, which is actually a good thing, the federal government with these stimulus programs, and certainly with Nancy Pelosi's $3 trillion stimulus program, is literally gutting and destroying your savings and making it worthless. By the way, that includes your Social Security check as well, because it'll be worth half of what it's worth today in just a couple of years. The Heroes Act, also would require the counting of absentee ballots in all states up to 10 days after receipt. So even though you receive absentee, miraculously you receive the absentee ballots 10 days after, but you still have to count them. Maybe that's why they want to give the Postal Service $25 billion to make sure that they can postmark them back before the election.
We're waiting to see this happen in California. So there's a special election in California yesterday. A Republican won a Democrat seat. It had gone for Hillary, I think, by 16 points.
But they haven't counted all the absentee ballots yet.
And the Republican is up 17,000 with about 77% of the 65% of the precincts reported. But there's a practice of voter harvesting.
Yes, there is ballot harvesting and voter harvesting.
So the Democrat Party in California is out knocking on doors. Did you get a ballot? If so, you need to fill it out and give it to me.
Yes.
And these are people who have no intention of voting. And this is after the election is pretty much over. And thousands of ballots are going to show up in the next couple of days.
Miraculously, they're going to show up. And the election is over. It's over. It's behind. It's over.
So it really is. I mean, this whole thing about fairness, anybody out there that's ever played a game with their family and believes in the rules, this flies in the face of that. The Democrats want to recreate the rules, and they want to find as many ways as they can
to cheat
and distort a traditional voter system that ensures democracy.
First, pay off the voters with stimulus, and then basically rig the election with absentee ballots, ballot harvesting or voter harvesting, same thing, and then getting rid of voter ID, and then paying off illegal immigrants and saying, now you're going to be a citizen with the stimulus bill, and then you can vote. I mean, it's just disgusting. Here's Nancy Pelosi with a clip of her talking about her Heroes Act, and you'll love what she says. Here it is.
Is the president part of these discussions, these negotiations?
I don't know.
I don't have any idea what the president does.
He said that the House was on vacation.
But you know what? Don't waste your time or mine on what he says.
Dude, Nancy, I don't care if the president, I mean, I'm not going to listen to the president anyway. I'm going to put in my own bill and basically virtue signal to all of our folks out there who are our voters. And then we also have CNBC. CNBC is a business channel of NBC News, which you can imagine already is a crooked business channel because it's a left-leaning, look, I'm sorry, most business people are by definition right of center. Because they actually pay taxes and they see how much they pay. They employ people. They see how difficult it is to run a business, and now they can't even open up their business because of the coronavirus pandemic. But so, of course, CNBC, business channel, but since it's owned by NBC, it's to the left of center, and actually way left of center. Here's Jim Cramer, one of their idiot talking heads at CNBC, talking about his love affair with the Democrat $3 trillion Pelosi stimulus bill. Here it is.
Another rescue package. It's on the table. This morning, the Democrats in the House of Representatives unveiled a new $3 trillion stimulus bill that they're calling the HEROES Act. While the Republicans in the Senate have already come out in opposition, dismissing it as a Democratic wish list, there's some good stuff in here. Like a badly needed $1 trillion for cash-strapped state and local governments, another round of 1,200 stimulus checks with an extra $1,200 for each of your dependents, more funding for unemployment insurance and the payroll protection program, and $75 billion for coronavirus testing and contact tracing, which you know we need. I think this is a sensible opening bid for the Democrats, given that the economy is still sputtering. And we don't want a public health crisis to turn into a credit crisis. Something the Republicans don't want to avoid. They got to avoid it, too. Don't take it from me.
So that's CNBC's idea of reporting about business, pro-business stuff. Oh, it's a great stimulus bill, according to Jim Cramer of CNBC. It gives $1 trillion to blue states to bail them out because of their fiscally irresponsible spending long before the pandemic.
Okay, we just discussed it. Somehow spending $3 trillion, printing $3 trillion of money is going to prevent a credit crisis?
Right. This is their business guy.
Yeah. I mean, whose credit are we talking about?
Yeah, right. Our grandchildren.
China? I don't get it.
So we have a second clip with Jim Cramer of CNBC, and this part is where he actually interviews Nancy Pelosi, and she's talking about her stimulus bill. Listen to this really closely because part of the stimulus bill is about contact tracing. In other words, spending a lot of money to determine and hunt people down who they think have coronavirus. And now, of course, here's Nancy talking about the other part of the wish list of the Democrat Party and the stimulus bill, basically controlling the entire business community through OSHA. And here is the clip.
Something happens to them, the best defense that the employer has is that we obeyed the letter and the spirit of the law of the OSHA.
You would be in favor of that plant opening, it was provided that there's oversight.
Well, we have to. One of the provisions of this bill that we haven't been able to get passed in previous bills, but not with strong opposition, it just wasn't a priority for the other side at the time. But we think it's a stronger priority now. We've always been for it. Is that we have a strong OSHA regulation, not guidelines, but mandates as to what should happen in the workplace. That's everybody's best protection, the worker and the employer, should the worker get sick.
Should that plant be open? Must be allowed to open that plant?
Well, I don't know what the conditions are in his plant, but again, what we have to be concerned about is the safety of the worker.
So there she is. She's talking about Elon Musk, of course. Should he be able to open up his plant? And she's like, well, no, OSHA is it's going to be a mandate from OSHA to determine whether you can open when we close you. Essentially, it's government acting like the Gestapo and controlling businesses about when they can open, whether or not they can open. Pretty much what government's doing right now with the business community, except that now she's going to codify it through her HEROES Act. Warren.
I'm just really relieved that OSHA reports to the President of the United States through the Secretary of Labor, and it does not report to Nancy Pelosi.
Thankfully, and the bill's not going to have a chance.
Yeah.
That's the other good thing, too. So final thoughts on Nancy Pelosi's HEROES Act, which is the $3 trillion Pelosi payoff to the woke in America. Thoughts on that, Warren? Final thoughts.
Too expensive. There's no reason somebody that lives in Iowa or Kansas should be held liable for New York pensions or Illinois pensions for
well said. Here, here.
Ridiculous union bargaining that's gone on over the years that have enriched the union members. I can't fathom the fact that a farmer in Kansas would now have this liability, and that's what Nancy wants.
It is.
She wants the rural areas to fund ridiculous collective bargaining agreements that have been agreed to over the years between Democrats who are supported by the unions and the union bosses who have given the Democrats huge sums of money to get elected and in turn get huge sums of money back to fund their unions.
It's the 2020 Pandemic Hunger Games by Nancy Pelosi. So we always like to end with something funny. Of course, that already is funny because it's the dumbest bill in America. But South Park, of course, talked about SARS years ago during the Obama administration. And SARS, of course, really didn't impact the United States really at all, like they thought it was going to. Clearly, this pandemic has, the COVID-19 pandemic has, there's no doubt about that. So we don't want to play that down. So don't attack us here in podcast land. But here's the thing. This pandemic has shown that we have a very, very low death rate. And as time goes by, we're going to make that death rate go down more and more and more and more, which is great, so people can go back to work. But South Park, of course, is making fun of SARS, and boy, did they see ahead with this pandemic because of the, I don't know, lots of people basically saying, you can't back to work, go back to work. Nancy Pelosi saying, I have the Heroes Act. You can't go back to work. I'm going to pay you to stay at home. You have to hear this clip. It's really funny. Here it is.
It's all right, Dad.
How's your mother?
She's hanging in there. Here, drink some beer.
It's cool on my tongue.
You're gonna be all right.
Stanley, listen to me. I have SARS. There's only a 98% chance that I will live.
No, Dad, no!
Listen, Stan. SARS is destroying our people. The Native Americans put it in the blankets they gave us. Soon there will be only 98% of us left.
What can I do?
You must find a cure for SARS, son, and save our people.
Cure SARS? Oh, Jesus!
So, there's only a 98% chance I'm going to live. And he's like on the deathbed, you know, and I'm not going to make it. So anyway, that's the last word for Mark and the Millennials. Thank you for joining Mark the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to our millennials who aren't here, but we do have Christopher Hopkins. He is our assistant producer, and he is here. We thank him very much, and he's a millennial. And we also want to thank Warren Miller. And we're going to see Garrick Ross back soon, and hopefully Squirrel and Andrew Fujiniti. And we also want to thank our producer, Adam Coutura. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. See you next time.